This is episode 74. And today we're talking about international trade, which is a very important industry because most of the things we have in our house is due to international trade. So we're talking about that and how you can take advantage of that and use it as a business opportunity or whatever you desire. What's up, guys? Thank you for tuning in. Today we're talking about international trade and the opportunities that it presents. International trade it's $1 trillion industry, and it's probably one of the largest industries in the world because it pertains to the movement of goods and services and people. International trade is very, very important, and I will highly advise individuals to get into that because oftentimes when you think about, at least from a U.S. perspective, people in America think about creating a company, they only focus on primarily on Americans. There's more people that can buy your goods outside of America than in America, as well as there's more money outside of America than in America. So if you are an entrepreneur or desire to be an entrepreneur, it will behoove you to at least look into international trade. Just look into it. Think about it. Think about the aspect that I can find something in America or whatever country I'm in, Thailand, Ghana, whatever country, France, whatever country you're in, I could take a product in my country and sell it into another country at a higher price. Sounds simple, but at least according to the statistics, at least from a U.S. perspective, only 1% of all businesses export products or services. Only 1% of all American businesses do that. Why? Because they think they're afraid. They think about the risk, and we're going to talk about the risk. We're talking about legal implications of that, of international trade and opportunities that it presents. First, we're going to talk about when you're doing international trade, the most important thing you can do to minimize your risk. Focus on contracts and focus on banks. If you can master the concept of international trade, contracts and banks, and the banking dealings and banking relations, you'll be very successful in international trade. So let's talk about the contract. I guess the main contract is primarily the sales contract. It's the invoice. Most of the time, it's just a standard invoice. It can start off as a performance invoice, where they give you like an estimate of how much it's going to cost to send your goods or whatever it is. It starts off as an estimate, but then there'll be a commercial invoice, a final invoice, and that is a legal contract. You sign it. I mean, there's a legal aspects of it. It has legal implications even if you don't sign it, because you're agreeing to it, and more likely we want you to sign it. And that on it mentions everything. It mentions the contact of the company's expiration date. It mentions the payment methods. We're gonna talk about a lot of the payment methods. You pay in advance, pay through a letter of credit. How are you going to pay? We're gonna talk about all of those in a couple seconds, I guess. And it talks about really many things. But the question is, how do you go about minimizing your risk? Because the often risk is that if I send something to another country, how do I know that person's gonna pay me? I mean, like, there's a lot of people trying to swindle me. A lot of people trying to scammers out there. So how do I know if I send my goods, I'm actually gonna get money back? How do I know that? And the question is, you don't really know that, but there's some ways you can increase your chances of knowing that. And one way you can do that is, first way is through what they call a letter of credit. It's very important. That's also a legal contract. And the idea is that instead of you rely on the word of this person, let's say for example, you have a product in America. Let's say for example, you got some agricultural equipment. America is very, very known for its agricultural equipment. The quality of its equipment. America is very known for that. I mean, you want to send this tractor, whatever it is, to another country, but you don't know this person. You never met this person, or whatever. You may have met this person. I don't know. But how do you guarantee that you're not going to get taken advantage of? The letter of credit is one way to do it, because you can request that the buyer get a letter of credit, and it's a guarantee from that bank in that country. It's a reputable bank. Most countries have reputable banks. There are a lot of international banks as well. So a lot of banks have locations in multiple countries. But every country has a reputable bank. It has a reputation internationally. So you can go to that bank, and that's pretty much the letter of credit. It guarantees that you'll be paid if the buyer does not pay you, or if the buyer doesn't pay you in full. So whatever it is, you could send seeds or whatever you want to send, fertilizer or whatever you want to send internationally, whatever it is. If they don't pay you within a certain amount of time, you can contact that bank and say, hey, this person didn't pay me. Pay up, and the bank will pay you. Letter of credit, the power of legal contract. It minimizes your risk. It's something that you can say, hey, I can actually send stuff in advance and not necessarily worry about it, because it's letter of credit, something that people have been using for a very, very long time. It's a tried and tested legal contract. Most of the world, pretty much from every person that is in international trade is familiar with the letter of credit. So that's something you can rest into that as well. Another thing you can do is you can ask for cash in advance. You see that a lot with online businesses. Like, you're gonna buy something from overseas, maybe Alibaba, whatever it's gonna be. You pay in advance. You pay with your credit card or however you're gonna pay. Primarily pay with your credit card, or you may do a wire. Wire is very safe. You have your bank send it to another bank. So there's an actual history, that's a tracking method of it. I would not recommend you send money through Western Union if you're doing international trade. Maybe if you're sending it to a family member, you can do Western Union, but if you're doing business, don't go through Western Union. You want to go through a letter of credit, you want to go through credit card, you want to go through a wire. I mean, these are things that's been existing for a very, very long time, and you want to follow those tried and true methods to do that. But if you're doing cash up front, buyers may not be willing to work with you because they want to be able to get the product, see it, and then pay you. So if you're doing things from international trade and you want money up front, it may be difficult to get actual clients. But you can minimize that by doing letter of credit. Another way you can do it is what they call an open account. It's similar to what I just mentioned. Idea is that you send a good and that person pay you back from any time frame up to 90 days. So that can be very scary for a person, particularly if you're starting out. That I send this product and I don't get paid till 3 months later. I'm not doing that. But I think that's something that you should consider to do, because a lot of people do that. And one way you can minimize your risk of non-payment is, at least from the American standpoint, and a lot of other countries as well, is the Exim banks. Most countries have an Exim bank. They may call it different names, but it's the Export Credit Agency. And at least from the U.S. perspective, the U.S. Exim Bank is a very, very important industry to understand when it comes to international trade. Because international trade is $1 trillion business. And if you're exporting things, Exim Bank stands for the Export-Import Bank. That's what it stands for. But it mainly focuses on exports. It don't really focus on imports. But the Exim Bank, it can give you credit insurance. The idea is that you can go to Exim Bank and you can, I guess like a better word, it's like insurance. And the idea is that if this person doesn't pay me, I can go to the Exim Bank, Washington D.C., and say, hey, they didn't pay me, and Exim Bank will pay you. And that's just pretty much how it is. And Exim Bank will do some due diligence beforehand. They'll check the credit worthiness of that foreign buyer, and if it matches up, they may ask for a bank reference from that foreign buyer or whatever it is. And if it matches up, they'll give you an insurance policy. And it's not very expensive either. You can do that, and that minimizes your risk of non-payment. So with that method, I mean, it's showing you just how relatively easy it is to get into international trade. And I would highly recommend individuals start looking into international trade. I mean, that's what I primarily focus my legal practice on, international trade, because international trade is $1 trillion business, and it has tons of legal implications and it's business opportunities, and the world is growing. The world is definitely growing. International trade is also growing. If you've been watching the news lately, these free trade acts are starting to happen. The idea is that countries are getting together and say, hey, we're going to work together. If you're part of this free trade act, you don't have to pay import duties to move your products into my country. For example, the U.S. just renegotiated. It used to be called NAFTA, but now it's called USMCA. I wrote a whole blog on it. You go and read the blog. It's pretty much an in-depth. It's between Canada, the U.S., and Mexico. And unlike what you may have heard, everybody left the agreement happy. Mexico, U.S., Canada, they all left happy. And they all gave up some things as well. So that's important to understand that. But if you send products between those three countries, you don't have to pay import duties. Africa, African Continental Free Trade Act, they're going to launch their free trade agreement with the entire continent of Africa. Something that hasn't happened in the past. They're going to launch that in January 2021. Also, you saw Asia. They passed a free trade act. That's going to be pretty big. So a lot of these regional partners and players are getting together and say, hey, let's make it easier to trade. Let's make it easier to send goods back and forth. And I mean, it's just very important that you understand that this is a business I can get to. I can take a product here and sell it here for more money. I mean, people have been doing that. I mean, it's in the dawn of time. I mean, people have been creating boats. I mean, people have been creating. I mean, you think about a lot of the trade routes. The Silk Road is a famous trade route. That's international trade. You think about the Sahara Desert. In Africa. That was a big, huge trade. Getting the minerals from all over Africa. Doing trade from West Africa Eastern Africa, the going to the Nile River. I mean, those trade routes that was controlled, and a lot of this stuff was, a lot of these piers and ports were contested because they understand the aspect of trade, because anything that comes in, they can pay a tax, and anything that goes out, they pay a tax. So like, these were international trade is a very lucrative industry, and it has been since the dawn of history. People have left their home country, going to another country, and sending goods back and forth, involving themselves in international trade. So that's all I really want to talk about in this video. I'm going to be talking more about international trade. I mean, there's a lot of things in international trades. I mentioned free trade agreements. There are different contracts. There are different ways you can minimize your risk. Get funding for it. Exim Bank allows you to get funding. SBA allows you to get funding if you want to export things. I mean, there's many things you can do when it comes to international trade and make it easy. There's legal entities with that. I mean, you create your LLC. They also another legal entity called the IC Desk. It helps when you export things. Excuse me. They help you save on your taxes. So these are different legal metrics and things they have in place, and different tax law things they have in place to help make it easier for you to do business. So it's very important to understand. But that's all I pretty much have. We talked about a lot in this video. We talked about the different contracts, the different, I guess, regulations that Exim Bank and banks have, and to help you facilitate trade. We talked about the different free trade acts and the different laws in place now to help with import and export. Well, that's pretty much all I have, and I hope you all have enjoyed this video. It's been episode 74. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And one step closer to 1,000 episodes. Thanks.